the stylish a stylish piece of wearing apparel for women of the 1930s, but this was made by my mother. She called it and wore it as a barn coat. That is, when she went to the barn, my dad was a farmer, and she would go to the barn to help with milking. I don't think she ever milked, but she carried pails of milk to where it had to go. And instead of going to the store and buying something, and you could buy a denim jacket that looked a little like this at Sears and Roebuck, the country store, but of course that was an outlay of money. And so she made this. Actually, this was one time quite blue. There's little evidence of that now, but that was hand dyeing, as it always was. And this fabric was at one time the finest of something, and apparently it was some sort of grass. Oh no, maybe it says so here. Alfalfa. Anybody that's ever farmed knows that alfalfa is a good hay grass. And where she got a pattern, I think she probably took some other commercially made jacket or coat like this and cut from that. So as I mentioned earlier, it was dyed blue. I guess she wanted to make it look like it was a denim jacket. It's mainly stitched on the sewing machine, which she had and used. She even overcast the seams, which if you've ever been in my home ec teacher's class, you'd have gotten good points for that, because that was showing that you knew what you were doing. And buttonholes were hand done. You didn't have a buttonhole on her machine. So it was something that she put on a cool morning to go to the barn, or later on in the day to go to the chicken house to gather eggs and what have you. And I would guess she even wore it in the garden if she needed something like that. But it's got some hand stitching here. This is an interesting part. The sleeve pattern required a little bigger than her piece of material, so she just hand whipped it, whether she felt that would make less bulk. That's why I would hand whip together two pieces of material. So there you are. And she used dark thread. Of course, if it was one-time blue, it wasn't as obvious as now. You can see the blue here probably a little better at this point for the camera. And here's the logo that was on the... And she bleached a lot of grain bags, feed bags, for household items, bed sheets, kitchen curtains, kitchen tablecloths, my undergarments. And then when in the 1930s, of course this is probably made in the 1930s, 40s, maybe even into the 50s. My father died in 1959, and that's when she was no longer involved in farming.